Thank you, Inga. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the entire Acuité group, I welcome all of you to the ESG India Leadership Award ceremony. We are overjoyed to see such a huge interest as reflected through your participations. Presence of eminent personalities like Mr. UK Sinha, former chairman SEBI, Mr. S.S. Mundra, former deputy governor RBI, Mr. Dinesh Khara, chairman SBI, Mr. Sanjeev Kaushik, Additional Secretary, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance, Ms. Aruna Newton, Head Diversity and Inclusion Infosys, and Mr. Felix Santeng from International Monetary Fund signify the seriousness with which ESG landscape is viewed in India. If human civilization must grow over the next millennium, uplift billions of people irrespective of race and gender out of poverty, ensure supply of energy and other natural resources to feed all the technological innovations that are to come without destroying our planet, and create incentives for businesses to ensure highest level of transparency and ethics, we need a new framework to channel funds in the right direction. If the last 300 years of industrialization has created a set of problems, now is the time to find solutions so that progress of humanity does not look like a flash in the pan. Worldwide, investors have started waking up to this fact as they recognize the risk of their investments rendered worthless due to climate events, problems created by an unequal society, and poorly governed businesses. As a result, more funds are flowing in the direction of ESG leaders than ever before. India has huge upside potential as major emerging market. India's current 7% of domestic AUM invested in ESG funds is expected to grow to 30% in a decade, as per our internal estimates. Clearly, this highlights the growing significance of environment, social, and governance factors in investment decisions. If there is one major economy that stands to lose heavily due to untamed ESG related risks or gain from opportunities that the future ESG disruptions will throw up, it is India. A long coastline, large agriculture dependent rural economy, huge population and inequality, and a long runway for sustained economic growth make us vulnerable, but at the same time, a hotbed for innovation and opportunities. For example, India's energy needs for sustained growth will pose a huge challenge, but if India can find an alternative energy resource from non-carbon sources, it will virtually secure centuries of prosperity. A major share of this future will be for the corporates to build, large or small, private or public. These corporates will need to secure funding to meet their goals, and the investors who believe in this future will have to find companies that have the intent and capability to deliver. Here lies the biggest challenge. ESG ratings provide a mutually acceptable, independent, unbiased, and objective framework to all stakeholders to measure relative performance of various companies within and across industries. ESG ratings aim to bring some discipline to an area that is struggling with lack of standardization and common benchmarks and quality data. The journey of ESGrisk.ai began in 2019 at one of the internal brainstorming sessions of Acuité when we were discussing the recent credit failures that shook the Indian market. As we started discussing how the disruptive forces will play out in future, it became clear that we need to watch out for ESG related risks. But at that point in India, ESG was not a very known concept and few had any idea how to use the concepts in the real world. In fact, the few people we spoke to around that time, we only received discouragement. But we decided to go ahead and invest in this area as we felt making ESG frameworks accessible to Indian businesses and investors would be a worthwhile mission to pursue. After that, ESGrisks.ai was set up as a wholly owned but independent subsidiary of Acuité Ratings and Research. Since then, we have developed rating criteria and methodologies, a very detailed taxonomy, an intelligent and electronic workflow. We collected data on listed Indian companies with 700 plus data points, and finally started publishing rating reports on 511 top Indian companies that are paid for by subscribers across banks and corporates. At the beginning of our journey, we met with people across all stakeholders, regulators, investors, and bankers who carried an impression that Indian corporates are not doing enough. This is hardly surprising, since as a human society, we pay more attention to controversies. But as we completed our analysis of 500 companies and dissected the data threadbare, it dawned upon us that there are great achievements that are worth talking about to inspire an entire generation of entrepreneurs and to learn from these experiences. This is why we have assembled here today to recognize corporate India's ESG stars. To begin today's proceedings, I invite our keynote speaker, Honorable Mr. UK Sinha, former chairman SEBI. Mr. Sinha, during his tenure with SEBI, oversaw several reforms in the capital markets, including those related to mutual funds and corporate governance. He is credited with bringing significant improvements in the areas of trading and settlement systems, asset management industry, and shortening of IPO timelines. We are very fortunate to have him here and are keen to know his perspectives on ESG landscape in India. Over to you, Mr. Sinha.